I think there are a number of ways in which the state can be interested in religions in relation to identity. It can be issues about individual identity. There can be issues about our sense of identity as a civic whole, you know, the kind of country we are. That's possible. And of course, it doesn't have to be based on a single religion. It can be a plurality of religions. Or it may be to do with minority identities, with protecting vulnerable, discriminated minorities and so on. But I don't have time here to go into that. It is in the paper and so on, and you know, may well arise in the discussion. So I'll use my last few minutes to skip through quite a lot and just say something which I would be very pleased to have debate and reaction against, because there's a part of me which says, hey, this makes very good sense, but there's a part of me which realizes that this may be very controversial, so I'd like to see what people think of it. And that is the idea that we might have some policies based on respect for religion. Is this compatible with secularism, is the underlying issue. But, okay. There is an image of religion as organizations or communities around competing truths which are mutually intolerant, which perhaps even hate each other's guts. There is some truth in that, and sometimes in places, but the opposite is more true. You know, we can have a situation, and I here give a personal anecdote from my own family example. We can have a situation where we can have views that can be expressed as that it's better to be in the presence of religion than not. And so the value of religion does not simply reside in one's own religion. One's own religious heritage is to be cherished and honored, but so are those of others, and the closing down of any religion is a loss of some sort. I would suggest that historically, this has been a prevalent view in the Middle East and South Asia. I mean, not universally and sadly, not always at the moment. But it has been a prevalent view where respect for the religion of others has even extended to joining in the religious celebration of others, borrowing from others, syncretism, and so on. So I'm not saying it requires the borrowing from others, I'm just saying it can go that far. I'm not saying it requires it. It is something that I think, you know, the West or Christian-derived societies can learn from. It is clearly beyond toleration and also utility, you know, which I haven't discussed just now. For this valuing of religion and respect for the religion of others, even while not requiring participation, is based on a sense that religion is a good in itself, is a fundamental good and part of our humanity at a personal, social, and civilizational level. It is an ethical good, and so to be respected as a feature of human character, just as we might respect truth-seeking, the cultivation of the intellect, or the imagination, or artistic creativity, or self-discipline, not just because of its utility or truth. We can think religion as a good of this sort, regardless of whether one is a believer or not, just as we can think music or science is a good, whether I'm musical or scientific or not. A person, a society, a culture, a country would be poorer without it. It is part of good living, and while not all can cultivate it fully, it is good that some do, and they should be honoured and supported by others. Now, this view could be part of religion as truth, but is not dependent upon it or any kind of theism, for it can be a feature of some form of ethical humanism. And in fact, you know, I'd say, you know, just kind of in terms of intellectual biography, for me, it arrives very much from what you'd have to call secular philosophies, in particular two philosophers, R.G. Collingwood and Michael Oakeshott, who both you could call philosophers of pluralism, so they didn't necessarily use that term, and they're not as well known as they should be. Those philosophers are not as well known as they should be, but neither of them make any appeal to any kind of theological argument. They don't quite say what I'm saying. I'm drawing on their work and extrapolating it, in ways that they didn't necessarily do themselves. Respect for religion is, however, clearly more than respect as recognition or recognition of religious minorities. And while I'm mainly concerned to argue for the latter, I am open to the former, especially as I believe that respect for religion is quite common amongst religious believers. So this is really the kind of mirror image of Richard Dawkins' view, that religious people are inherently antagonistic. There's something about them that makes them antagonistic to each other and to anyone else. And I worry about an intolerant secularist hegemony. There may once have been a time in Europe when a powerful authoritarian church or churches stifled dissent, individuality, free debate, science, pluralism, and so on. But that is not the present danger. European cultural, intellectual, and political life, the public sphere in the fullest sense of the word, is dominated by secularism, and secularist networks and organizations control most of the levers of power. And so respect for religion is made difficult and seems outlandish, but may be necessary as one of the sources of counter-hegemony and a more genuine pluralism. Hence, respect for religion is compatible with and may be a requirement of a democratic political culture. I appreciate that this may seem to be, and indeed may be, a form of privileging, and I put here privileging in quote marks because I think it would need to be unpacked. Privileging religion. For in this idea that the state may wish to show respect for religion, I'm going beyond not just toleration and freedom of religion, but also civic recognition. Nor am I simply pointing to the existence of overlaps and linkages between the state and religion. The sense of privilege may not, however, be as strong as it may seem. After all, the autonomy of politics is the privileging of the non-religious. So this is perhaps qualifying that non-secular privileging. Moreover, it is far from an exclusive privileging. States regularly privilege, if that's the right term, regularly privilege the nation, ethnicity, science, the arts, sport, economy, and so on, in relation to the centrality they give it in policy making, the public resources devoted to it, or the prestige placed upon it. So if showing respect for religion is a privileging of religion, it is of a multiplex, multilogical sort, not a singular privileging. Moreover, it is based on the recognition that the secular is already dominant in many contemporary states, and so it is less privileging than compensatory, and aimed at furthering, not diminishing, democratic plurality and civic inclusivity. In any case, I offer my comments on respect for religion more tentatively than in relation to some of the other things I've been saying. We clearly need to separate the 5 positions, which I haven't already presented, but the 5 positions in the paper, separate them out and differentiate between their normative justifications and policy implications. But we may still wish to appeal to more than one of them at a time, or for different policy measures. So we have to choose between them. Or perhaps to appeal to some of them without repudiating the others.
Thank you very much, Mark.